Australia's treatment of the Iranian women's soccer team. The US President initially stern with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, then pivoting to high praise. Washington correspondent Lauren Tomasi takes a deeper look at the exchange.
There's been a flurry of social media posts from the US President ranging from warning Australia to praising the PM, and ultimately it led to Donald Trump picking up the phone to call Anthony Albanese. The US President began posting about the Iranian women's soccer team in Australia in the early hours of this morning, warning Australia would be making a terrible humanitarian mistake if the team wasn't granted asylum. But within an hour of his initial pleas, Donald Trump changed tune, announcing he had spoken with the Prime Minister and declaring he's on it. 5 have already been taken care of and the rest are on their way. The Prime Minister is doing a very good job having to do with this rather delicate situation. God bless Australia. The Prime Minister revealing it was the President who dialed down under.
President Trump rang me this morning just before 2 a.m. We had a very positive discussion. He was concerned about the Iranian women in the soccer team and their welfare and their safety if they returned home. He conveyed that to me.
A positive phone call between the two leaders ending in praise for the PM. And while Australia has now taken in members of the Iranian women's soccer team, the United States also offering the athletes asylum.
So what are the ramifications of Australia's involvement in the Middle East war? Peter Jennings is a former Secretary for Strategy at the Defence Department and joins me now from Canberra. Peter, how significant is our defence commitment of surveillance aircraft, troops and weapons for the UAE?
Well, it's a big step up for us based on the very limited role that we've played in the Middle East over the last few years now. And it means to say, even though the government keeps saying it's all purely defensive, what it means to say is that we're becoming very actively engaged in the war as an American ally, with a significant Australian military presence now to be in the UAE.
So what role will this plane actually play?
Well, the missiles will shoot down aircraft, or rather missiles or drones. That's what they do. The Prime Minister says purely defensive, but if you're in an aircraft shot down by an Australian missile, that's pretty offensive to me. The wedge-tail aircraft is a very specialised aircraft that controls the battle space. It can see enemies and allies moving on its computer screens in a very wide area. And although it will be operating out of the United Arab Emirates, it will see deep into Iran, it will see all the way across the Straits of Hormuz. So it's a powerful weapon to coordinate Emirati aircraft, and indeed it'll have to be talking to the Americans and Israelis to make sure that we don't get in the way of their military operations at the same time.
Well, this is the thing, they'll be operating in a region where there are a lot of missiles being deployed in the skies. What sort of risk are our troops in this plane facing?
Oh, there's absolute risk. The same aircraft and I guess the same crews operated in Poland, providing a similar air battle space management over Ukraine for a number of months, so they understand the risk. And the wedge tail is going to be well back from where combat aircraft might be dropping bombs. But when you're in a war zone, there's always risk. Our forces understand it, and I think our government understands that too.
What is the likelihood, do you think, of Australia putting boots on the ground if this conflict does continue to spiral?
It depends how long the war lasts from here. I think there is going to be the risk of America using some special forces, perhaps on the coastline areas around the Straits of Hormuz. The longer the war goes on, the more the pressure will come for small numbers of ground forces, because you can't always win from the air, and I think that's the dilemma that Washington DC faces. For Australia, I think other than maybe a ship, which I could see the next logical ask, our Prime Minister today was saying this is it. But is it ever really it? That depends on how long the war goes and what it takes to actually win at this stage.
And does this commitment put us here in Australia at greater risk from Iran? Because we've also given the soccer players asylum. We've already come under attack from Iran here on home soil. Does it broaden the risk for our country more generally?
I think we've always got to be conscious of the risk of terrorist acts which flow from people becoming radicalised or inspired by what they're seeing. There've been hints of that around Western democracies just in the last week or so, so I think that's something we should be alert to. And clearly we've been pretty high on the Iranians' radar for some time. I think the story of the soccer players now will add to that sense of Australia being in the Iranian mind. But then again, Dave, they've got a lot to deal with right now. So I think it's more about local radicalisation being potentially a factor, and we need to be conscious of that.
Great to get your insights, Peter. Thank you so much.